From long shot underdog.
Thank you, my friends.
To the most talked about politician on the planet.
It's time to deliver on that which we promised.
The new mayor-elect of New York City in Puerto Rico this weekend on his first big trip since that historic election night win.
Has it sunk in yet?
Now Zohran Mamdani sits down with News 12 in San Juan, opening up about the whirlwind battles ahead.
What is the first concrete step and how will you gauge success?
News 12 senior political reporter Rosenblum asking how he's preparing to clash with President Trump.
The president wants to speak and work on those specific issues. I am ready to speak and work with him.
And discusses what comes next for New York City and beyond.
This will be a city that will deliver for them in a way that they haven't seen in quite some time.
A special edition of Power and Politics starts right now. Hello, and thank you for joining us here on Power and Politics. I'm Nadia Galindo. Today we're taking an in-depth look at the man reshaping politics in the tri-state before he's even taken office. In his first major sit-down interview since that historic win, Zohran Mamdani joined our senior political reporter Rosenblum for a wide-ranging and candid conversation at the annual SOMOS conference in Puerto Rico.
Congratulations. What a ride. Oh my gosh. First things first, have you slept yet?
A very limited amount, but I am very excited at the opportunity that New Yorkers have given me.
As you're sitting here in front of me, I can't help but remember when you and I first met and had our first in-depth interview. It was back in April in Bryant Park. You remember that, right? It was myself, you, one single staffer, no entourage, just this scrappy underdog campaign, one that I'll give it had big dreams and big goals. And now here you are sitting across from me as the mayor-elect of America's largest city. What a journey. So, you know, really, I just want to start out by asking you, when you realized you'd done it, who were you with? Where were you standing? Where were you? And what did that moment really feel like?
You know, I was sitting next to my wife and a few of my closest advisors, and it was an incredible moment because it was a moment where we realized that the work we had done over the last year had delivered us a mandate to enact an agenda of affordability, one of ambition, the likes of which we haven't seen since Sherrill was the mayor of the city. And to see more than 1 million New Yorkers come out and vote for our campaign, and so many of them, like the very ones we met in Bryant Park, it being their first time seeing themselves in local politics, that is the privilege of a lifetime for me.
And you mentioned Mayor LaGuardia, and you mentioned an ambitious agenda, and I think it's safe to say you have proposed the most ambitious affordability agenda that we've seen since the mayor. And you know, exit polls show that is the primary reason voters are sending you to City Hall. But of course, you need Albany to tweak the taxes. The MTA sets the bus fares. So what's the plan to fund and deliver your promises that went over so well with voters, like universal child care, free buses, and all the rest?
So these are things that I look forward to working with Albany on, and I believe that we can fund this entire economic agenda and start to Trump-proof our city by raising two principal taxes. The first is personal income tax on the top 1% of New Yorkers. New Yorkers who make more than $1 million a year or more, raising their income taxes by 2%, and raising the state's top corporate tax rate to match that of New Jersey. Those things together would raise $9 billion, and that would pay for not only making buses fast and free, not only universal child care, but also ensuring that amidst these devastating cuts we're seeing come from Washington, D.C., that we can protect New Yorkers with the least from the man who has the most power in this country.
Trump-proof. That just stuck in my ears because, you know, hours before this campaign came to a close, President Trump was weighing in on your race. You saw what he said. You reacted to it. He urged people to vote for your primary opponent, Andrew Cuomo. He said he's going to withhold funding from New York City. He basically said he thinks you're going to destroy New York. So the question becomes, how are you planning to deal with what seems like an inevitable looming clash with the Trump White House?
Well, I think there are always possibilities to actually work together. If you look at Donald Trump's campaign that he ran to become the president of this country, it was a campaign premised on lowering the cost of living, on cheaper groceries. And if the president wants to speak and work on those specific issues, I am ready to speak and work with him, because New Yorkers are desperate for results on that. Now, if the president wants to try and enact his promise to create the largest deportation force in American history, then I will stand up and fight him every step of the way, because this is a city where too many New Yorkers are living in fear at this moment, fear of even leaving their apartments at the prospect of being thrown up against a wall by an ICE agent in a mask.
Since winning, have you heard from anyone on his team?
I haven't yet heard from anyone from the president's team, but I look forward to those conversations.
Let's talk about turnout, because now we know it hit its highest level since, what, the 60s? More than 2 million voters. I mean, that's massive, and it shows you didn't just win, you brought people out to vote who typically stay home. But in all the post-election chatter that's all the rage here in Puerto Rico right now, people that we've been talking to say it wasn't just enthusiasm for your campaign, but it was anxiety over things like affordability, crime, even some of your campaign platforms. How are you reading the surge? What do you attribute it to?
You know, I think it's New Yorkers finally seeing themselves in the politics of their city. And I think seeing their struggles in the politics of our city, because too often politicians tell voters what they should care about, as opposed to asking voters what we should be talking about. And when we went out there, when Donald Trump won the election more than a year ago, we asked New Yorkers on Fordham Road, Hillside Avenue, two of the neighborhoods with the largest swings to the right, why did they vote for Donald Trump? And they said cost of living, cost of living, cost of living. And to have brought out more voters than we'd seen since 1969, to have brought out voters, many of whom, again, who had just registered to vote for this race or who had lost faith in the democratic process years ago, that shows me that politics can be more than just settling for the scraps that aren't feeding enough of our families or saying that it could be worse, but instead an affirmative vision of what it could look like if New Yorkers could afford the city they call home.
So here we are now as a result of the turnout. You are one of the most popular, but also polarizing politicians on planet Earth right now. And I think, you know, a microcosm of that is my social media feed. Every time I get to meet you and I post an interview, I hear from hundreds in a way I never do with any other politician. DMs, messages. Now half it's split in the middle. Half of those people love you. They think you're transformational. They think, you know, you're going to save the world in the tri-state. The other half, frankly, you know this, they're petrified on how some of your policies will impact the business community, Jewish voters. You know, there's people out there saying, I'm moving to Florida, I'm moving to Westchester and Long Island. How do you bridge, calm that divide, and what's something tangible you plan on doing to show that the Mamdani administration would represent all New Yorkers, not just the people who supported you?
And that's exactly what it is. It's about representing the 8.5 million people who call New York City home. Not just the ones who voted for me, not just the ones who voted, but anyone who calls New York City home is someone that I'm looking to represent. And I look forward to building a city hall that stands steadfast with Jewish New Yorkers and does not relent in the fight against the scourge of anti-Semitism in our city. And for the business community, I look forward to making it easier not just to open a business, but to keep that business open. And I've spoken to small business owners about cutting fines and fees by 50% across the board. I've spoken to business leaders about the need, as someone who believes deeply in the public sector, to also ensure that there's a reason for every regulation that we have. If I can't give you a reason, it probably doesn't have a reason to continue to exist. And I think about that when a restaurant owner told me that he has to pay the city $25 a year for the right to sell a frozen dessert. Doesn't make much sense to me. And it's not just about the money. It's also about the time and the pressure that we're putting on some of these small business owners. And I look forward to showing New Yorkers of all political persuasions that this will be a city that will deliver for them in a way that they haven't seen in quite some time.
So you got right to work. I mean, you know, right after your election victory, naming a transition team, all women with a lot of years of experience at City Hall. What is the criteria you're using in those picks, and who do you want surrounding you at City Hall?
The criteria is always excellence, and that is what drove the appointment of these four incredible women, whether we're speaking about Lena Khan or Maria Torres Springer or Grace Bonilla or Mel Hartzog. These are four women who have a track record of delivering, and delivering amidst time of crisis and delivering amidst a crisis of faith also in our politics. And what we've seen is that this vision of bringing excellence back into the public sector is one that is exciting so many to join our City Hall. You know, we launched a portal for people to apply for a job in our City Hall, and in less than a day we've seen 19,000 applications pour in. And that just shows that it can be more than just the cuts we've seen under Eric Adams. It can actually be an administration that is delivering on the needs of New Yorkers.
Have you made decisions on whether they're department heads in the Adams administration that you'll keep around?
I will assess everyone on the basis of the work that they're doing, not on the basis of who appointed them. And I look forward to making those kinds of decisions over the next 56 days.
So I was there, at your election night of Victory Party, standing not too far away from the stage when you were speaking. And I knew you said that would be the last time you'd be talking about Andrew Cuomo. But I can't help it. I'm so curious. What is it that you learned from running against him about power, politics, and yourself?
I learned what the politics of the past looks like. It was a politics that I was up against for much of the primary and much of the general. And as much attempts as there are at intimidation, at division, at fear, I also learned that New Yorkers are looking for more than that. They are looking for change. And that's what my administration will deliver. It will deliver a change not only in purpose, in terms of who we serve, which will finally be working people across the city, but also in results, because people are tired of asking for the same things for so many years and finding the same results. It's time to bring new solutions to old problems.
There is much more to this conversation. Coming up, Mamdani looks ahead to Vote 2026.
I have appreciated the working relationship that we have.
Will he endorse Governor Hochul? And what should the National Democratic Party take away from his victory? That and more straight ahead. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to this special edition of Power and Politics. I'm Nadia Galindo. We're going to continue the conversation with Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani in Puerto Rico as senior political reporter Tara Rosenblum asked him about how he plans to work with top leaders in the region and what his win means for the Democratic Party.
What should your historic victory signal to the National Democratic Party as we head into the crucial 2026 midterms?
I think that it's time to bring working people back to the focus of our party. And I think we have to make it clear that protecting democracy, it's not enough in and of itself as a value or as an ideal. We also have to protect democracy's ability to deliver for the material needs of working people. And I can speak most specifically about New Yorkers, but I know that Americans across the country are facing that crisis. And they're facing it because you have a Republican administration that campaigned on lowering the cost of living, that is now fighting to make it even harder for Americans to afford their groceries. I mean, close to 2 million New Yorkers are on the precipice of not having SNAP benefits, which would make it even harder for them to put food on their family's table.
I was getting emails from sources telling me that there would be some breaking news coming. Elise Stefanik likely announcing a run for governor. And sure enough, as we were walking into this interview, the Associated Press was reporting that Elise Stefanik, the congresswoman from upstate, would be announcing a run for governor potentially this Friday. Haven't heard your thoughts yet on the congresswoman. What do you make of her policies, and can Governor Hochul count on your support as she heads into a re-election battle?
I haven't yet been asked by Governor Hochul for her endorsement in that race. I have appreciated the working relationship that we have and the shared focus on delivering for New Yorkers, and especially her focus on universal child care. I will tell you that Congresswoman Stefanik, to me, is indistinguishable from President Trump in that they are both working together to make it harder for New Yorkers to afford their groceries, harder for New Yorkers to afford their health care. We're talking about someone who's in lockstep with an administration that is so desperate to throw 4 million Americans off their health care, they would rather shut down the government. And I do not see any future in which New Yorkers would like to see that here in New York City while they're trying to fight it there in Washington, D.C.
A big win this week, not only for you, but for Democrats all along the eastern seaboard, including our neighboring state, New Jersey. Have you met Mikie Sherrill? What's your relationship with her?
We've spoken a few times on the phone. I called to congratulate her on Tuesday evening after her polls had closed while ours were still open. And what I appreciated about her, both in those conversations as well as in what I saw of her campaign, was someone that is focused on fighting for the people that she's looking to represent. And there was a moment in one of her rallies where she talked about exactly what she was going to do to take on the affordability crisis, and saying that the era of strongly worded letters have to come to an end. The time is now to actually deliver on utility prices, to deliver on the things that are keeping people up at night, not just on what we end up seeing so often on cable news.
And be it congestion pricing, immigration, there's so many issues that overlap and impact New Jersey. Do you anticipate having a strong working relationship with her?
I look forward to having a strong working relationship with the governor, as well as with anyone whose work intersects with the lives of New Yorkers. And I think for far too long, politics has become a place where people assume, whether it's the relationship between Albany and City Hall, that it can only be one of tension, only be one of conflict, when in fact, so often we're actually looking to serve the same set of constituents.
You have just made history as the first Muslim that will lead this city. So I have to just ask you on a personal note what that milestone means to you and what message you hope it sends to young people across the tri-state.
I think the most meaningful moments are the ones where I have with young Muslim New Yorkers who come up to me and I can see in their eyes the sense that they could be anything in the city that they call home. And for far too long, whether we're speaking of Muslim New Yorkers or other New Yorkers, there's been attempts to narrow the definition of who gets to belong in our city. And it is time to have a definition that applies to everyone who calls it home, where the debate we're having is not who belongs, but rather how do we ensure dignity for all who already call it home.
Finally, I have to ask you, homelessness is surging across New York State, especially in your area, in the city, and especially among young people. What is the first concrete step, and how will you gauge success?
This is a crisis we're seeing in New York City. Last measure, 154,000 students in our public school system were homeless, and that is a shame. It is something that should scandalize all of us. And to me, there are a clear set of next steps. One of them is looking at a pilot program called Every Child and Family is Known, which was started within the public school system and a few schools in the Bronx, was shown to be incredibly effective by pairing homeless public school students with public school employees, having them meet once a day in person, having those employees meet once a week with the family of that student in person. It increased attendance records, it increased a sense of belonging, and even the mental health of those students. And that's something I believe we have to expand to hundreds more schools across New York City.
That was Tara Rosenblum's sit-down interview with Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani. And as we mentioned, Mamdani is in Puerto Rico this weekend attending the annual SOMOS conference. It's a pilgrimage many officials make after Election Day, the conference highlighting the needs of the Latino community. Our cameras were rolling when Mamdani addressed a crowd at that event shortly after arriving.
Puerto Rico, how we doing? It is such a pleasure to be here as your mayor-elect of New York City. And it's a pleasure to be here because no matter where we are, the message is the same. Here we say Puerto Rico no se vende. In New York City we say Nueva York no se vende. It's the same struggle, which is for working people. What we are here to do is get to the work of delivering for the people of New York City. For too long we have talked about it, we have dreamt about it, and now is the time to actually work for it. There are too many New Yorkers for whom New York City is something to be dreamt about, to be remembered, as opposed to a place to be nurse, who are willing to do two things all at once: fight an authoritarian administration and deliver on an affordability crisis. We must protect those neighbors in New York City who are fearful of leaving their apartments because of the presence of ICE terrorizing New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs, and protect neighbors who are fearful of receiving a rent hike in their mail. It's time to get to work. It's an honor to be someone who will be doing that work for you each and every day.
There is still much more to come. Stay with us right here on 12. Welcome back. Let's continue our conversation with Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani, who spoke about his initial reaction to winning the election and why the SOMOS conference in Puerto Rico is one of his first stops.
Has it sunk in yet? You're the mayor-elect of New York City?
It is starting to, and it's incredibly exciting just thinking about all of the work that we can actually deliver on to make this a city that's affordable for New Yorkers.
And, you know, this is your first big trip as mayor-elect. Why now? Why SOMOS? Why here in Puerto Rico?
You know, it is a joy to be here in Puerto Rico. You cannot tell the story of New York City without the story of Puerto Ricans. Mm-hmm. And to return back to SOMOS after having been here last year, it's an opportunity to meet with city council members, to meet with organized labor, to meet with partners, whether they be the governor or the attorney general, who will be key at delivering on this agenda for New Yorkers.
Now, during the campaign cycle, Mamdani was able to turn social media engagement into votes like we've never seen before. I spoke to a content creator to see how this strategy helped energize young voters. in the crowd at a Pink Panthers concert.
Coca is cute. Coca wants to play. Coca wants to live in a city she can afford.
Meeting a neighborhood bodega cat. And shaking hands with taxi drivers on the night shift. Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani and his team bringing eyeballs to his campaign to win the election.
The takeaway here is not you need to make better TikTok videos. The TikTok is the real takeaway from Mamdani's victory is that you need to stand for something.
Carlos Casadilla Palacio is one of many Gen Z content creators that have helped elevate Mamdani's message on social media.
Elon Musk has just gotten in the New York City race and endorsed Andrew Cuomo.
The 28-year-old is also the president of the Brooklyn Young Democrats. He quit his job working for a local state Democratic senator to create content full-time, a move illustrating how his generation is ready for a new form of politics.
We are seeing a politics right now that people are hungry for, which is actually being genuine and actually treating people not as subjects, but actually as partners.
He says Mamdani presenting himself online in an authentic way helped move the needle. And the success of those social media videos can be seen when you speak to everyday New Yorkers.
I saw the one in Spanish for my community.
Pueden salir a votar.
I have a lot of expectations on him, and I want to see what's going to happen.
I thought he looked amazing in those videos. I thought he did a great job. I think he's a great public speaker.
And while Mamdani is now headed for Gracie Mansion, Carlos says the work has just begun.
We're ready to dream and we're ready to fight for change.
Change that will be documented every step of the way. And that's all for this special edition of Power in Politics. Thanks for watching.